Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So in this one, I want to share with you my updated Nightblade PvP build for the current patch. This is a sniper like no other. We have more damage than ever before, we no longer use Way of the Fire, and we just hit like a truck. This does use scribing, as you can see down below, and honestly, you have to see this to believe it. I will be posting a gameplay guide, so do subscribe to see that, and if you want to see this live, I do stream over on YouTube at 9 PM UK every Saturday. With that said, if you like what I do here, you can support over on Patreon or on YouTube members and get exclusive content, early access and much more. There's details down below. And as always, just a massive thanks to those people who do that already. For this though, what are we doing race-wise? For your race, you have two choices, Khajiit or Dark Elf. The damage difference between the two is negligible, in my opinion. I've tested both, I've used them both on live, I've used them on PTS loads, I've been testing back and forward. And the kind of short is, Khajiit has slightly higher peak burst, Dark Elf has more consistent damage. As we're trying to burst people, Khajiit is better, in my opinion. And if you go as a melee build, you can switch easier on Khajiit because you get some good sneak passives down here. As with the health and stamina regen, it's meh. The max stats are meh. It's the crit damage here that is really good. 12% crit damage and healing is really strong, and we do really capitalize on this. But as I said, Dark Elf is a really good option too. For the attributes, I've gone with 16 in health, 24 in magicka, 24 in stamina. I'm aiming for about 28,000 health. Now you could push this slightly higher if you wish, and you can just drop a bit of magicka or stamina. And although those regens look low, we do have some skills to offset this drastically, so don't panic. One thing to note as well with this is going higher health, although you stay alive a lot longer, in all honesty, unless you move really well, you're going to die. That's just how Nightblade is. So I would rather have a bit more max stats to work with and I can escape easier. That's what I have more success with. With my Mundustone, I'm using the Shadow this time. I've tested the Shadow, I've tested the Lover. The Lover is more consistent damage. The Shadow is more peak burst, but it also gives you more healing. And that's really helpful because of how we build this. We get more healing, which means we can bounce back quicker if we do get into trouble. Thus, we can obviously run less health. You might have also saw that we were a vampire as well. A vampire, in my opinion, is a must. If you're not a vampire, you are missing out so much. Vampire gives you access to Darkstalker, which means you can sneak without being slowed, which is amazing. You get damage when you come out of sneak or invisibility, so it's just free damage. And as you're stage 2 for this anyway, you might as well go for stage 3 and get Undeath. Undeath will give you more damage reduction the lower your health gets. So the way that you can see this is that if we activate our Sated Fury, or you go with the other morph, Simmering Frenzy, this will damage your health, but you will see that Undeath is going up and up and up. What this means is around 30% health, you're getting about 11-12% damage reduction. That is a defensive set. And what that means is that we can actually go really aggressive with our stats, because this is giving us still loads of defense, even with the nerf. So I would still be a vampire, basically. So you can see it's really good, 10%, and we're at 45% health. It's a really good passive to have. For the consumables on this build, we are using Smoked Bear Haunch or Jaws of Misrule. This is max health, and then it's stamina and magicka recovery. You could use a bit more max stats if you wish, it's like Sugar Skulls for example, but you'll then have to use the sustain skill a bit more. And in potions, I use Tri Potions, they cover all bases. That said, it is worth carrying a few Detect Potions with you versus other Nightblades, and it's also worth maybe having 1 or 2 immovable potions if you're in Cyrodiil, because they can be quite useful. Now I want to go through these skills and show you how all that works, and just note that this does use scribing and there's 2 variations here. So on the front bar, we are using Lethal Arrow. This is our spammable, and then this has minor defile, but it also hits the poison status. So what this means is that we hit them, we get loads of debuffs on them and some good damage. This is almost 12,000 fully buffed, so really high tooltip. I think it's 12,300 roughly. We then have a scribed skill, and this is really different. This is Chilling Soul. It is brand new with update 43. You could not make this before. When you use this, you deal frost damage, and then you hit them with a debuff, doing damage over time, and also major breach. What's nice is that with the sets we use, we get minor breach and we get major breach with this skill, so we've got both penetrations now, so it's really, really high pen. To make this scribed skill, you need to go to Wield Soul, you need to have frost damage, you then want to have lingering torment, as this gives us more just damage over time and we can switch targets easily. All of the other options, in all honesty, aren't worth it. And then you want to go with breach. Now you could go with Defile if you wish, but I found breach was more bursty and that was helpful for like just killing people. This will give you this really, really nice skill. It essentially replaces silver bolts. So if you've been a member of the channel for quite some time, I have sworn by, and I still think it's really good, going down to the Fighters Guild and getting silver bolts. This is like the alternative. This is nice because you get access to Slayer, which gives you more weapon and spell damage. So this can be really, really good. That said, this is more burst with the sets we use currently. So that's why we've gone with this route. I then use Camo Hunter, which gives us more just crit chance. But more importantly, when we are attacking from the flank, we get minor berserks and more damage again. And it also gives us this damage here too. So it's just loads of free damage. Really, really good. We then have Shadowy Disguise as invisibility. And while we get slotted, we get crit chance, which is awesome. And then we have Merciless Resolve. This is really good. This is like a massive burst hit. And this just hits like a truck. So I would use this. And then this allows you to then pick which ultimate you use. Because we have Merciless Resolve here, we do benefit from the Hemorrhage passive, which gives us more crit damage and also gives us more crit chance. What this means is that we don't have to use this ultimate. You could go and use Toxic Barrage. This is like disgusting. The only issue is that when you use this, you are channeling it, but you can often do the combo and then Toxic Barrage and you will kill any person pretty much. I personally prefer in-cap because if you get attacked and you do a snipe into an in-cap, you almost one-shot people anyway. So I quite like that combo, and this is like a defensive skill I use personally, but Toxic is a really good option. For the back bar skills, we have Leeching Strikes this time. The other morph, it does give you more resource, an extra 600, which is noticeable. But what makes this really nice is that while this is on our bar, any damage we do, we get this heal. It's about 900 in PvP, and it crits. So that when it crits, it's like 1,300, and it's every second. So what happens is when we're attacking somebody, just this alone, this puts a debuff on them when we get healing. And then when you get the other debuffs that we have with the other sets, you end up getting this every single second. So this becomes a really good free heal. But as I was saying, with our sustain being a bit lower, if we're out of resources, we can just sneak around and just push this. And we still get our resources back. It's really good. Yes, our health goes down, and you can just offset that with Vigor. So as you're doing this, you're getting those resources. And what makes this really potent is that you can interweave this with Cloak. So as you go around, do that, Cloak, and then do this again. So you can see I'm moving around and I'm not losing any resource. And all I need to do every sort of 5-6 of those, just one Vigor. So this is a really good way to move around for free, always invisible if you wish, or to just reset your resources really fast. And on top of that is that passive healing. We then have another scribe skill, Healing Contingency. This is healing, it's also extra damage, and it's our damage buff, which makes this really unusual. So this gives us access to new skills we never had before. So to make this skill, you want to go to Contingency, Healing, and then you want to get Gladiator's Tenacity or Warrior's Opportunity. If you use Opportunity, you get more damage. This is great. Tenacity is a really good option as well. I personally, Warriors is, I want to kill people, but this is worth considering if you want to have a bit more survival. With Warrior's Opportunity, it's a flat 2,000 on your next hit. And then we then use our Brutality and Sorcery. This is our major buff. This is really nice because when we do our combo, and I'll just show you kind of in action, we would do our normal buff up, and we cast this. When you use Cloak, this massive circle goes around you, but it's actually invisible to enemy players. And I've tested this multiple times. So although you get like this massive circle around you, as soon as you hit cloak, people don't see that big circle, and so you can still be completely invisible as you do this. So when you're behind people, they can't see you because you're behind them anyway. You'd approach the person, do your contingency, do your cloak, and then go straight into your burst combo. What will then happen is you then have this 2,000 already added, as you can see, 12,000 already, and this goes up, 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 and up, and up with more of our stuff. On top of that, this also procs our Mage Brutality, which means we can drop Rally now, which gives us access to a new skill. So this is a really good skill. It's kind of a must-have in my opinion. We then have Vigor, and obviously with our damage buff, just put it on, our Vigor is 20,000. We also have really high crit chance and high crit damage and healing, so we have really good heals from this. We then have Race Against Time to move around and Minor Force, some more crit damage, and it also gives us Snare Immunity. We then add the Vampire toggle this time round, because we've got to a point where with our proc sets, we can almost one-shot people now, which is amazing. So this is really good, and this really helps just tip it over the edge. For the ultimate, we then use Temporal Guard. This basically gives you minor protection whilst it's just slotted, so it's free damage reduction. All of this combined means we hit harder than we did before, because we've got new procs, and we also have access to more bar space so it can stack damage even further. The one thing to note, if you did see the previous build, and you wanted to go for the stun route, which I still was really good, I still like playing that version, you do have to drop one of the sets and change a scribed skill. If you wanted to add the stun, you drop Wield Soul for stun, Torment, Breach. This will then give you a skill that will stun somebody, slightly less damage, but you get a stun at range, which is amazing. And then what you then do to fix the damage, because you don't have a spammable after your snipe, you then would go to your Fighter's Guild and put Silver Bolts instead of Camo Hunter. So that's if you wanted to use the old build, and you'll change the set, which I'll touch upon in a moment. The back bar stuff, leave as is. I'm going to go through the CP quickly. So for the champion points, we have Fighting Finesse, more crit damage, crit healing, survival and damage, amazing. Master Arms for more damage, Deadly Aim for more damage, and Backstabber for more crit damage. Basically, we crit incredibly hard. So this is like the best damage setup that I found having tried all the different options. With the red ones, we use the following. Celerity. This gives you more movement speed. Survival Instincts is nice, but it's an optional, and I get kind of what you could use instead. Pain's Refuge for just more damage reduction, and Sustained by Suffering for more sustain. With the Survival Instincts and Sustained by Suffering, you could tweak either and run Bastion. If you run Bastion, as you'll see when it's on max, it's 15% damage to shielded enemies, which means Sorcerers, you do 15% more damage. It's quite noticeable. So if you did this, I would personally either drop Survival Instincts or Sustained by Suffering. I would probably go with Sustained by Suffering just because Survival Instincts does count dodge roll, it counts block, it counts sneak. And when you're sneaking, you can't get your stam regen anyway, so I would normally drop this. But, you know, it's an option for you. And for the green ones, anything you want, but you need Steed's Blessing and Sustaining Shadows. Talking of sneak passives, if you haven't done it already, I would highly recommend level up your Lagerda main and get improved hiding. It is a 40% sneak reduction. It means sneak is really cheap with that CP and this. You can sneak incredibly easily, and it saves you so much stam that you're ready to open up much quicker. The final thing now is to go through the sets, and if you do like the video, then obviously do like and comment, but more importantly, do subscribe. I have many more videos on the way, and I'd love for you to see them. And as always, just a massive thanks to all of the YouTube and Patreon members. If you want to get early access to the videos, exclusive builds and much more, there's details down below. But what are we doing for this set-wise? We are using a set that is going to be completely out of there, and some of you might have already picked it up. We are using Winterborn. Now, I know that sounds mad. When you deal frost damage, you summon an Ice Pillar. It's an AoE's undodgeable. You cannot dodge this, which is why it's so good. It hits harder than Way of the Fire. It's almost double the damage. So this is phenomenally good. The problem is you can't proc this with frost glyphs. You have to use a frost skill. Now, historically, we did not have access to any frost skill whatsoever. But now we have Chilling Soul. With the most recent changes, we can now get a Frost skill that does damage, which means we can now proc this set. We have a Sharpened trait and an Oblivion damage glyph. You could use double dot poisons as an alternative, which are really good for that sustained pressure if they're tankier players. We then use a Great Sword of Agility, Precise. Now you could use Precise or you could use Powered. Those are the best two in my opinion, because you don't really want to be taking damage, you just want to be healing through it and running away. That's kind of what Nightblade does. And as for the glyph, anything you like. For the monster set, we are then using Krog Heavy, and this is a penetration one piece with a triglyph on the helmet. We then have Tarnished Nightmare on the body. So we have the chest, the hands, the legs, the feet, and also the shoulders as we have a mythic item. We then have one piece Winterborn on the waist. This means we have one heavy, one light, and 5 medium. That gives us our undaunted passives, giving us more max resource again, more damage. We then use Winterborn on the necklace and on the ring, and then we have a mythic of choice. The jewelry should all be infused damage. The glyphs on the body should be Tri on the head, the chest, and the legs, and Magicka or Stamina on the small. I've gone with Stamina for all the small ones. For the mythic, I would recommend either Markin, that's a really good option. You could go with something like Death Dealers if you want to be more in the fight rather than, hit and run. You could use Saint and Seducer, that's surprisingly good actually. Or you could just go with Oaken Soul and just drop the bat bar. I personally would use Markin, it's the most consistent out of all of these. And there is also Wild Hunt. Wild Hunt will give you more speed, but you do lose a little bit of damage. When it's all combined, this is what our tooltips look like and what our damage is like. So I'm going to go behind the target just to show you. So when you're doing combat, this is what this Chilled Soul looks like. It's really cool animation wise. It's easy to stack, hits hard, and it's just great. For our actual buffs, I would recommend, if you are wanting to track this easier, go onto permanent effects. It really helps. You can see the Stated Fury out on the bottom left. So when we're in combat and we're going to buff up, we do this. We would then cloak. That would proc our damage boosts. It would also proc our vampire passives. And then you would see this is almost 13,000. It is a lot of damage. Yeah, so 12,600, 11,000, 22,000, 20k. And for that Winterborn, so just showing you what the damage looks like. Winterborn has a proc of 9,000. Tarnish has a proc of 9,400. When we actually do the combo, so I'm going to do it to the skeleton just to show you what it would look like on a player. I would keep my Sated Fury up when I see the target. So the target's over there. I would go and Sated Fury, race against time. And as I get closer, I'm going to put on my contingency, swap bar, cloak, snipe, and then my soul skill. And all of that procs at once. That hits really, really hard. And it will one-shot a lot of players. Anybody around 25 to 28,000 will die almost instantly from that combo. You can then follow up with the followed, just doing more of these. So it hits very, very hard. And when you get the kill, just remember to turn off your Sated Fury or Simmering Frenzy, depending on which one you had, so that way you not keep draining your health. But that's kind of the build. It's much more burstier than before because of all the things we're now doing. And for people curious, what is it compared to Way of the Fire? Well, the Way of the Fire tooltip, and I'll just buff up for the same comparison. Way of the Fire tooltip is 6,000. The Winterborn was 9,000. So when we put on our damage buff again, it's 8,600. There goes to 9,000 fully buffed. So it's almost a third, maybe 40% more. So it's quite a big difference. But yeah, that is the build. The only thing I will say is if you did want to obviously run the stun in the build, and I did touch upon it earlier, you just simply go and change Winterborn for Way of the Fire. Literally everything changes to Way of the Fire. You just put the chest as Way of the Fire and the belt as Tarnished Nightmare. Jewelry as Way of the Fire down here, infused damage again. And then all you'd do is you'd go over to your scribing station, so you can go to the Scalarium, and there you would go and change your Wield Soul to Stun, Lingering Torment, and Breach. Once you've done that, you'll then add into your skill bar Silver Bolts. And you just simply drop Camouflage Hunter for Silver Bolts. And that's how you add the stun if you wish. But that is the build, guys. If you get any questions with how this works, let me know down below. It does require scribing, but this is the best one I've found so far. As always, I want to say a massive thanks to the likes, the comments, the shares, but more importantly, the subscribes. It really, really means a lot. And just a massive thank you to all the people over at YouTube and on Patreon who are members. If you want to support myself there are details down below. But as always, I'll catch you next video and next stream. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And bye!